right? And we all know there is a steam train coming at us called digital so fast that we all look into that abyss of the interruptive advertising business model, and it looks so scary. But actually, it's not. It's very, very exciting, because suddenly our skills, our talents move from being the world that was to one of ideas and creating exceptional experiences. Bravo for you guys to invite such a very, very smart and established world figure to talk with us about her view on media, on brands, on communications, and how this all might play out in the 21st century. Arianna Huffington.
Thank you so much. First of all, I have never had a better introduction in terms of, no, seriously, in terms of really setting the stage for what I really want to say and for what I believe and for what I've been trying to do in the digital sphere. Also, I love being introduced by a person with an accent. I just love that. You know, when I first moved to this country from England, where we also kind of were at different times living, I met Henry Kissinger shortly after I moved here, and I went up to him and I thanked him profusely for making incomprehensibility acceptable in American public life. So people with accents kind of stick together. It's really great to be with a group of people who are thinking about all these major issues of our time. And the one thing that I want to reassure you about is that the digital future does not need to be scary. It's a little bit like the Terminator movies. Do you remember Sarah Connor and the Terminator, right? At first, it looked like the Terminator was her enemy. But little by little, she realized that he was really her only true friend. So the way to really deal with the digital future is to completely embrace it and to realize that there is no other future. And therefore, the people who are going to thrive and not just survive in the digital era are the people who fully integrated into this experience. And what you said about creating extraordinary experiences, I'm going to steal and use it because that's exactly what we're talking about. And that's what people doing political campaigns don't understand. They're still running campaigns of the 50s. And they don't understand that it is about creating these extraordinary experiences. The first one was an amazing woman called Majora who lives here in Brooklyn. And she works with the people in Brooklyn, you know, inner city, trouble, people who end up in jail, most of them, you know, predominantly African-American young people. And as she was talking about it with Larry Brilliant, who runs the Google Foundation, she started weeping. And it was just such an incredible, extraordinary experience that she created, because this was not just a job for her. This was like her life. And she was weeping for all the lives that were being destroyed because we were not doing enough for them. And the other extraordinary experience was actually somebody from your business, Rich Silverstein. He showed us what he considered the most powerful, extraordinary experiences in movies and television, and he said only one on YouTube. He said there is only one.
Ready when you are.
And it was the experience of Paul Potts. Do you remember the English American Idol? If you haven't seen it, I really urge you to go see it. Went there, this salesman, sales salesman from Wales, who stood there looking, you know, nerdy, with crooked teeth, apparently $75 suit, we found out later. How do we create these extraordinary experiences, which is the creation of brands? It's all about that distinct brand. And what works in the digital media is that passion, intensity, authenticity, and transparency. If you try to control everything, the way, of course, political campaigns inevitably are programmed to do, it doesn't really work, because then you are afraid of the spontaneous moment that may reveal that you are a flawed human being, as opposed to this incredible Superman or Superwoman who is going to change the world. And flawed humanity is perfectly okay in the digital world. That's why the Dove campaign was so successful, right? Because it acknowledged that not every woman, it looks like a supermodel. And it's perfectly okay to embrace that. And that worked. And that's why the Microsoft campaign that you created at the airport, at JFK, works, because it engages us completely. It's not just one message. It engages the whole human being. And that's why we found that even though we started the Huffington Post as a political site, we realized that, you know, even our most politically obsessed users have other lives. So that's why we created 6 other verticals, you know, business, media, entertainment, living. Living is the one that I'm most passionate about, because increasingly we are finding that people are looking at how are we living our lives and what do we need to change, and that's affecting everything. It's affecting politics, media, as well as the traditional lifestyle industries. So what we did is we created like 3 boxes at the top, which are our philosophy of life. Hi, to both of you. No, this is perfect. Very glad to have the next generation here. So the first box is about how do we have less stress and more productivity in our lives. We all want that. The second box in the middle is how to make a difference in the world while making a difference in our own lives. Because so often charity and philanthropy are presented in terms of what we're doing for the group we're being charitable towards, and we are missing the fact that how this changes us. And the third one is what I think is going to be the next big thing on the internet. And you heard it here first, and if you can buy stock in it, I highly recommend it. The next big thing on the internet is going to be disconnecting. Because everybody is so connected, so wired, so overloaded, that there is this deep human longing to disconnect from our always connected lives and connect with ourselves, which is the ultimate connection. And it doesn't matter where you are in the spiritual spectrum, whether you believe in God or whether you don't, it doesn't matter. We all have an inner life. That's why we're calling that box the inner life. So we have people writing there who are completely in the marketplace. You know, we've looked for people who are totally engaged in this life, but we're at the same time trying, as Stacy Lawson, who writes every Monday, calls it, we're trying, she said, not to leave half ourselves in the car when we walk into the office. And in a sense, you know, I think employers are realizing that the more you bring all of yourself into the office, including your problems, including the fact that you arrive and you couldn't get childcare that morning or your child is sick, you're bringing that to the office. If you don't, then you're not bringing your creativity to the office. We are an incredibly sleep-deprived society, and we are paying a heavy price in creativity because of that. How many people here are sleep-deprived today? That's not good. I know for myself that when I get enough sleep, whatever enough sleep is for each person, I'm more creative, I'm less moody, I'm less reactive, and I bring more joy into everything I do, and joy is an incredibly creative force. I was showing you the picture of my daughter. I have 2 daughters who are 16 and 18, but I carry in my wallet pictures of them when they were 3 and 4, because, you know, when they're 16 and 18, it's another story, right? But I have these pictures that are my joy triggers. I have joy triggers that I go to through the day, you know, because sometimes days are full of problems, right? And when I go to my joy triggers, I access my own creativity. It can be music, it can be pictures, it can be whatever works for you. It can be a cafe latte with a green straw in my case. I like that too, you know, whatever. Integrating all those different parts of our life, from politics to work to digital media to how much sleep we got. That's being kind of totally engaged in everything. And that, in the end, how we live our lives is the brand that we become. The Huffington Post, as you know, is a combination of news, aggregated news from all over the world, bloggers, we have 1,800 bloggers. And how do we pick the stories we pick? And how do we pick the headlines we pick? I think the left-right way of looking at American politics is completely and utterly obsolete. Just look at the major issues of our time. The war in Iraq. You have about 70% of Americans who want us out of Iraq. Is that the left-wing position? And yet look at how the media are presenting it. They still say Hillary Clinton is surrendering to the left of her party in wanting us to get out of Iraq. What left of her party? If 70% is now the left of the Democratic Party, there's been some big revolutionary change that we missed. Or healthcare. Remember when healthcare used to be controversial? Now it's like Detroit wants universal healthcare because they're going bankrupt without it. So all that has changed, but the mainstream media has not caught up with the changes. Journalism was about ferreting out the truth. There's a kind of belief that there are facts, there is evidence, there is truth. It's our job to get it out. Sometimes it's incredibly hard. Sometimes we don't know. But that's what our job is. There was a story in the New York Times about how the Bush administration is lowering the bar on political progress in Iraq. You read the story and you realize they had completely buried the lead. The lead was that basically the surge, which was always supposed to be there in order to facilitate political progress, right? Do you remember that? The surge was never supposed to be there in order to bring some military success. Of course, if you bring more soldiers in an area, there's going to be less violence. This is tautological, There is less violence within the White House than there is in the area surrounding the White House, because there are more security in the White House. But that's not what it was about. So we kind of splashed it as a headline that what is happening in Iraq is not working. Because there is no political progress, and the only thing that can sustain any kind of form of quiet and stability and progress is political reconciliation. And there's been no move. They've moved actually, the article said they've moved from reconciliation to accommodation. Like, what does that mean? Killing each other every Friday? It's like all those things are just basically ways to avoid telling the truth and to pretend to be an objective reporter. But that's not objectivity. That's really burying the truth. And do you remember that they convinced 72% of Americans that Saddam Hussein was behind 9/11? That's the power of a big lie that is not constantly refuted by the media. So that's how we see our role. We see our role to always try and portray the truth in the headlines we pick, in the stories we cover, and that truth may very often be something that the Democratic Party or Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama may not like. We are not partisans. We're not endorsing candidates. The truth is not always in the middle. There's this idea that somehow you have the right and you have the left and the truth is in the middle. Not at all. The truth is rarely found by splitting the difference. When we get, say, our bloggers writing, they are often people who have very busy lives. And what we're giving them is a platform where they can write about something that's happening the way you would write to a friend. You read an article, you're outraged or you're inspired, and you share it with a friend. Ari Emanuel, who is my agent in Los Angeles and has a lot of opinions, calls me from the golf course and dictates. Or he starts in a rant, and I said, hold on, that sounds like a blog to me. Speak more slowly. The first person I invited to blog was Arthur Schlesinger, who has, died this year. But I thought this is an amazing historian, still living, who can have who can write about the events of the day. He said to me, what's a blog? And I tried to explain, and he said to me, why don't I take you to lunch and you can tell me? And he took me to lunch to the Century Club, where he and I were by far the youngest people in the room. And he said to me, I barely use a computer. I said, do you have a fax machine? He said, yes, I have. And he would fax me his blogs, and it was just amazing. And sometimes there would be a paragraph, like a meme that enters the cultural bloodstream and can help shape the debate. From the beginning, from when we started, we had our comments be moderated, 24/7 human moderation, because we didn't want our conversation, our community to be overrun by trolls and people making ad hominem attacks, which would have completely destroyed the conversation. But we are putting an enormous amount of emphasis on our community, because it is truly stunning to me how much wisdom there is there. And let me give you an example. Rich Silverstein, whom I mentioned, I had dinner with him after that speech, and I said to him, can you come up with some ways to help the Democratic Party brand the last 6.5 years, like what happened? They've been so bad at it, and people keep forgetting. And so he came up with 3 posters. One poster was the slogans of the last 6.5 years. The other was the people, the names. And the third was the events. Thousands of comments saying, oh, but you forgot about Mission Accomplished, or you forgot about Cut and Run, or you forgot about Jack Abramoff. And so they made so many additional suggestions that then Rich said, let's just create a huge long poster. You know, it's going to be, I don't know, 6 feet or however long. And he said, let's buy space to put it on outside buildings. And then let's make them into posters, which you can send out as Christmas presents. Wouldn't you like to be reminded of the last 6.5 years during Christmas? But it's also important because the worst thing in a democracy is amnesia. You can control a people by making them forget the past. Karl Rove had the audacity, the obscene chutzpah, to go on Charlie Rose and say that it was the Democratic Congress.
Why did the United States Congress, the United States Senate, vote on the war resolution in the fall of 2002? Why? This administration was opposed to it.
That wanted to invade Iraq. And that they pushed George Bush into doing that. It is truly unbelievable that somebody thinks that he can get away with that. But that's why we have to keep reminding people, because people forget. And the GOP has been much better at branding than the Democrats. I mean, basically, they branded Petraeus. General Petraeus became a brand you could trust, right? And as a result, they were able to sell the Surge. You know, the Surge is promoted by a brand you can trust, therefore the Surge is a good thing, the Surge is working. Really worked. Not the Surge did not work, but the Surge is working, worked as a brand. This is the most exciting time that we are living in now, when we are really reinventing and recreating everything. And I don't believe at all that traditional media are dead. I think this is going to be the hybrid future. You remember the old barroom argument, is it going to be Marianne or is it going to be Ginger? You know, it's 2007. Let's have a 3-way. It's going to be both. You know, in the foreseeable future, it's going to be both. It's going to be traditional media and digital media. It's not as if you can say, okay, we have to abandon everything we're doing in traditional media, whether it's spaces at the airport or magazine advertising or TV advertising. Of course not. It's a question of incorporating the digital media into the way we are presenting products, politicians, ideas, news. All that is part of what we need to use both media in presenting, and presenting differently, because different things work in the digital media. And what works in the digital media is also what we are longing for in our own lives, which is all the things we mentioned, of authenticity and transparency and clarity. And that's why this is exciting, not just because of products and politics, but also because we are looking at a new way to live, which has more balance and more integration and less excess and less of the incredibly stressful way that we've done our lives, which has not sustained us and which has not brought the kind of meaning that ultimately everybody is looking for. So thank you so much for having me.